guys, it's Anissa. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am doing more of a tutorial learning beginners type of video. They are one of my favorites to do for you guys because I love to share the tips and tricks that I wish I would have learned a lot sooner than I did. I do have another video like this that I will tag right up here for you guys to watch. That one also has a lot of good tips in it, but all of these are completely brand new. If you have seen that video, this is like pretty much basically a part 2. Not really a makeup tutorial because you guys will see this didn't turn out perfect, but we got there. If you guys are interested to hear some of the makeup tips I wish I would have learned a long time ago, then make sure to keep on watching. But before we go any further, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I post on this channel once a week, so you never have to miss me for too long. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that I'm not actually going to be doing every single step with you guys on camera because I do not have a hack for every step in my makeup. So just to save a little time, most likely though, if you go watch my first video, there is a hack for the areas that I have not covered. For the eyebrows, I really don't have a hack that I'm going to show you. I am going to talk about one. So I went ahead and did my brows off camera, but I will tell you guys what I used on my brows. If you have an older brow pomade that's kind of starting to get a little bit dried out, the formula is just not performing the same way, you do not need to throw it away and buy a new one. All you have to do is spray a hydrating setting spray or even eye drops in it, go in with your brush, and it's like brand new. I would recommend only using a hydrating setting spray though, because if you use a matte setting spray, it's just going to dry it out even more. When I do my eyebrows, I always like to carve them out with a pencil and then go in with a brow pomade to actually fill them in. But I was feeling a little bit fancier today, so I actually went ahead and used 2 different brow pencils. Again, usually I would use a brow pencil and a brow pomade. Sorry guys, my air's on. It's gonna kick off in a second. Huda Beauty hashtag BOMBBROWS micro shade brow pencil, and I have this in the color black brown. I actually fill in my brow. UOMA Beauty One and Done Complete Brow Styler number 8. And the reason that I didn't just go ahead and use the Huda Beauty for my whole brow is because it is so tiny that I would literally be sitting here all day. The UOMA Beauty applicator is a little bit thicker, so I went ahead and used that to actually fill in my shape. To carve out the bottom of my brows, I went ahead and used this DERMABLEND cover cream, and I have this in the color 45W. I'm gonna try to keep the eye look fairly simple today, but before we actually go in with eyeshadow, we have to prime the lids. This has been my ride or die eyeshadow primer. It is just that good. One of those products that cannot be duped. MAC Paint Pot in the color Contemplative State, a CoverGirl friendly version of Soft Ochre. It is just pure perfection. It literally looks like you have a filter on your eyelids. I do have a quick little tip for eyeshadow, and I found that this makes all the difference in making your colors look very vibrant and helping them to just really pop. This eye primer is just a tad bit lighter than I am. And I have been loving to use eyeshadow primers that are a little bit lighter than me. You don't want it to be too light because if it's too light, your eyelid's not going to look corrected. It's just going to look grayish undertone is there because you didn't actually get rid of those blue undertones. Use something that is a little bit lighter than you, but that can still conceal all of your imperfections. Whether you are doing a neutral look or especially a colorful look, using something a little bit lighter, especially if you are darker, is really going to help those eyeshadow colors pop. Not really swiping the color, I'm stippling it into the skin to give a more even application. Keep it really simple today with the eyes and use the Too Faced Born This Way, the Natural Nude Eyeshadow Palette. This is what it looks like on the inside. While I'm keeping it simple and basic, I'm also going to dip into this Violet Voss All of You Forever eyeshadow palette, a more fluffy brush. I'm gonna take these 2 colors right here, these matte ones, mix those together and put those in my crease. And my first tip for eyeshadow for you guys would be that depending on how you place your eyeshadow is going to determine what eye shape you're giving yourself, especially on the outside right here. The more you drag your eyeshadow out this way, the more elongated and cat eye-ish your eye's going to look. If you keep it rounded out and kind of give yourself like this type of shape, it's going to almost close off your eye. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just depends on the look that you are going for. I always recommend that if you are doing eyeliner with the shadow, you want to elongate your eyeshadow because that's very confusing when you have rounded off eyeshadow and then a really long, you know, sexy wing. We really won't get to that until I get to my deeper transition colors. You can create that illusion of a more elongated cat eye look, you're using eye tapes. If you're going for that elongated look, you want to make sure that you're dragging your color all the way out to where that tape is. I found that the best way to get even eyeshadow application is to go in circular motions instead of swiping. Now you will see when I'm trying to blend my shimmer and my matte transition shade together, I will kind of do more of this only because I go back and forth 2 or 3 times and I don't want my shimmer to go all the way up. And I kind of pretend that there's almost an elf eye tape right here when I'm doing my eyeshadow. Like, you want to bring that color past where you want it. That way when you clean it up, it doesn't look like a really sudden stop. It looks like the color just keeps fading away naturally. And this is also why I love doing my eyes first, because you have that freedom to work pretty much with a very big canvas and not worry about messing up your base. I've given myself my blown out crease color. Now I want to concentrate a color just a little bit more to add another dimension to the eye. A smaller brush harmed as well down here because I want it to be a little bit darker. Going in with that same brush that I used before, and now I'm going in with my circular motions because I want to blend the color out. At first I always just like to place it, that way I can get it where I want it. I'm gonna see if I can get it a little bit darker with this color right here, Truffle. Yes, that's what I wanted. Making sure we don't have any harsh lines. Really pretty black down here, Infinity. And I am going to create the illusion of more shadows in the eye, and I'm really just going to place that right on my outer V, and I hug it really close to my lash line and then kind of just let it dwindle up. This is a great trick as well if you're not doing winged liner, because it almost creates that illusion of liner when you hug it really close to the lash line. This is a great example of how I was talking about how you can create your eye shape. So do you see how I really didn't bring that out? I made more of this shape with it because I want it to be focused there, but when I blend it out, I'm going to blend along and make it elongated. When I'm doing my outer crease color, I really want to keep the center of that color and just blend out the sides of it. I'm gonna go in circular motions, but not over the whole color, just on the outside, and you see how I'm bringing that out. And also don't forget to blend the inside. I found that blending the inside is the best way to blend. This has been the most life-changing hack for me. Eye tapes. These are specifically the e.l.f. Line and Define eye tapes. I love these particularly because they are made out of more of a cloth material. So they're very eye friendly. They're not going to tug and pull as much as traditional plastic tape would. If plastic tape is all you have, that's fine. But I also like these as well because since they have a little bit of a clothy material, they tend to catch your fallout more than plastic would. I always cut them in half. You get 40 strips in here for $3. The wing shape that I like, I just follow the natural curve of underneath my eye. I'm kind of extending the bottom of my lower lash line. I feel like it would kind of be fun to do brown liner today. I've used this pen, but not in the brown formula. Sephora Collection waterproof eyeliner, and I have this in the color number 2 brown. The eyeliner shape that I'm about to show you guys is what I have found is the best and most suitable for hooded eyes. For me personally, I always like to do my wing first and then my line. It's a lot easier to get your line to follow the shape of your wing than it is to get your wing to follow the shape of your line. I always start short to long because it is much easier to add than to take away, especially if you are wearing eyeshadow. If you have to take away, that means you also have to take away the eyeshadow from underneath. Out to in. Also, when you do your wing, you actually have more control over what the angle is. And with these, I always kind of start my wing on the actual tape because it gives you a more crisp line. I'm not loving that, and I really think it's just the formula. And when you do mess up, I just go in with the brush that I used on my crease colors. I'm gonna try black because I don't know what's up with that brown. So let's try the black. That brown, it must be the applicator. Now that I have the shape that I want, you see how I've kind of started to already draw my line? I never take my line all the way in because if you have hooded eyes, it makes your eyes look closed off. What I like to do is kind of start my line where this inside color part of my eye is and gradually make it thicker to where it meets that wing. What that does is give a more cat eye effect. I'm just dragging it in and slowly, really pretty much tight lining like so. Just making sure that curve is really super natural from thick to thin. See how my eye looks a lot more elongated versus if I were to have a thick line all the way across my eye. I've just found that it's a lot more flattering with my eye shape. I'm just gonna do the same thing over here. I always like to let eyeliner dry before I pull it off, because if it's still wet, it will kind of bleed over from where you just pulled it off, and you're not gonna get that super crisp line like you want. This is always like so satisfying. All I'm doing is taking a makeup wipe right underneath my eyeliner and wiping off that extra eyeshadow that we had from when we were blending. They never both look the same, and they never look the same twice. Now it is time for my favorite part of makeup, which is complexion. I just feel like the skin really comes together when you start putting foundation and concealer on your face. The vision comes to life at that point. So before we get into actual makeup though, I do want to share a couple skincare tips with you guys. I do have oily / combination skin. My cheeks are very normal, and then my T-zone is fairly oily. I have not cracked the code on how to get perfect skin. If you have, please let me know down in the comments. But there are a couple of skincare tips that I have for you guys that pertain to makeup, and I have seriously seen a change in my skin since I've started doing these two things. Number one, in the morning or whenever you're doing your makeup, make sure that after you are applying your moisturizers and your serums that you are letting those skincare products soak into your skin for at least 15 to 20 minutes. That is because if you just go straight onto your face with makeup, you're not letting those skincare products really absorb into your skin and do their job. I have seen such a big difference in not only my makeup, but also my skin, because I'm allowing those products time to actually work. It's the same thing as a face mask. You don't just put a face mask on and then take it off. You let it sink into your skin and do what it's supposed to do. Secondly, if you are trying new skincare products, it is so important to only try one new thing at a time. It's so funny that I say that, because I absolutely love doing full face of first impressions for you guys. And the reason I do full face of first impressions is because, quite frankly, I have too much makeup to do a dedicated video for every single product. I do that sometimes, but rarely does it ever happen. Makeup is a little bit different because you can just wipe it back off. Do I get an allergic reaction sometimes? Yes. But when you are using skincare products, if you use more than one new thing at a time, it is gonna be very, very hard for you to determine what your skin does not like, what's making your skin freak out. I guess my third tip would actually be to really stay consistent. If you're not loving the routine that you have, don't switch it until you've used those products for 1 to 2 months. And if you're not loving what's happening, do not switch everything at once. Slowly integrate your new cleanser and your new exfoliators, your new moisturizers. Your skin's gonna freak out if you try hitting it with all these different things. I found that the skincare routine that I have right now keeps my skin at bay. I've had to change my expectations of my skin. I don't expect my skin to be perfect because I just have so many things in my life that stress me out that cannot be taken away. I don't strive to not have acne. I just strive to have skin that is controlled. We are going to go ahead and get into primer. I feel like I've really had a revelation this year with primer, because I used to be somebody that never ever used hydrating primers, because I was like, oh, I don't need any more hydration. My skin is already oily enough. There's a difference between oil and hydration. I have oily skin, so I always recommend, what works best for me is using jelly-based, water-based moisturizers and hydrating primers. Huda Beauty Water Jelly Primer. I put this all over my face, and then I'm gonna go in with a more pore blurring / mattifying primer on my target areas. Sorry y'all, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Before we do primer, I am going to go ahead and use primer spray. I used to think that primer mist was just a quick buck for companies to make. But ever since I have started letting my skincare sink into my skin, that is when I saw the biggest difference in what primer mists were doing for me. The purpose of a primer mist is to give your primer a nice moisturized base to go on. The e.l.f. Hydrating Coconut Mist. If you have dry skin, I feel like you would benefit from a primer mist infinitely. I mean, even if you have oily combo skin like me, your makeup looks so much more skin-like when you use hydrating products. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put this on. I do not like lotion-based hydrating primers because they are just a little bit too heavy for my oily skin. That may be great for somebody that has more dry skin. I love hydrating primers that have this type of texture and feeling to them because they are so lightweight, but they give your skin skin the perfect amount of hydration, and the more hydrated your skin is, the better your products are going to go on because they have a nice smooth base. I'm ready to go in with my pore filling slash mattifying primer. e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. This is actually the only non-silicone based primer that I have found that actually does a really good job at blurring. I do prefer silicone based primers for that reason. I don't know if it's because I have oily skin or if it's because my pores are bigger, but that's just what I prefer. I'm being very strategic with where I'm placing this product. You don't want to add more product than what you need to your skin. If you're oily all over, then you're going to want to put this all over. And I also like to use a hydrating primer all over my face underneath the mattifying primer because it helps it blend into the skin so much better. My primer is really able to soak into my skin. Ever since I started doing my testing foundations videos, my cheeks are very, very normal. I wanna go ahead and mention a couple of really good, affordable, jelly-based moisturizers because I felt like I really had to go on the hunt for some of these. This first one is the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. This is an exact dupe for the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. I love the fact that this not only helps grip your makeup, but it is also very, very hydrating and lightweight. Most similar to this Huda Beauty jelly primer would be this NYX Bear With Me jelly primer, jello texture. It is so lightweight and just invigorating on the skin. Dupe for the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. This is the Hard Candy Sheer Envy Hydrating Primer, True Gel Moisturizer. I use it as a primer. This is the Morphe 2 Total Softie Gel Moisturizer. And then lastly, probably top two, Milani Chill Out Soothing Primer. This has such a unique formula. It looks like a silicone-based primer, melts into the skin from gel to water. Going back to using more hydrating primers and still getting long wear out of them, I actually like to use more natural finish foundations nowadays, and I just go in with a really good setting powder, a really good primer, and a really good setting spray. But I do still like to use mattifying primers because I do not have to touch up as much during the day. But I still like that glow from within type of look when I use my mattifying foundations. I'm just gonna mention this product because I'm not using a super matte foundation today, so I don't think I need this. Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This is one of those products, again, that I feel like just cannot be duped. I know that a lot of people wear this on its own because it just gives a really pretty glow to the skin. For foundation, I'm going to be using the JOUER Essential High Coverage Cream Foundation, and I have this in the color Cocoa. Now, this actually is not my perfect match, and very rarely do I ever buy a foundation that is my perfect match, which is why I love to use hue shifters. My favorites are the ones from LA Girl. This is too yellow for me. If you have something that is too neutral, you're gonna add yellow. I just need to mess with the undertone. This little tool has also been a life changer for me. This is the Morphe mixing plate. It comes with a little spatula. I'm just going to add a little bit of the blue and mix it together. I'm just testing it on my skin right now, and I'm gonna add a little bit more. This is the before and this is the after. So this definitely is a lot more yellowy than this top one is. And also, this is more of a concealer hack, but I do want to go ahead and point it out as I'm blending this foundation in. I'm really not putting a whole bunch of foundation underneath my eyes because that is what concealer is for. I'm not gonna lie, probably should have used a different foundation just to show you guys that those drops do actually work. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys another sample of a foundation of me mixing it. That way you can really see what I'm talking about. And I know I look crazy. If I were you, I would look at me crazy too. I went ahead and mixed another foundation. That way you guys can really see how good these are. This is the before, and this is the after. Now let's work on getting this face looking normal. I like to do bronzer, concealer, then blush. Makeup by Mario Sculpting Stick, color Dark Deep. I have found that placement is everything when it comes to bronzer. It's probably the most important part of bronzer in my opinion. The higher you put it up, the more of a facelift you're going to give yourself. Don't put it all the way up by your eyebrows because then it's not going to give you that contoured look. I like to put it right at the top of where my ear is. I'm just gonna blend out one side at a time. When I was doing my foundation, because the match I just can't get over, but whenever you're working with creams, you really wanna make sure that you are stippling that product into where it is. You don't wanna rub because that's going to give you uneven application. You want to stipple. And I found especially with bronzer, that has been such a game changer for me. I found that when I was swiping, it was making my bronzer look so patchy, and then I just would take it off. I wouldn't want anything to do with it. So just patting up and down. And it does take more time but I found that it just comes out so much better. I do prefer cream over powder because I feel like cream looks a little bit more skin-like. Now it is time for concealer, which I don't know if I like concealer more or foundation more. Probably concealer, because I start to look a little bit less crazy after concealer. Lately, I have been loving to use 2 different concealer shades. I will use one that is really close to my actual skin shade, and then I will go on top of that with not as much product as something a little bit lighter. DERMABLEND Cover Care Full Coverage Concealer, and this is in the color 50W. I don't know why this doesn't get talked about more, because this is almost better than the Tarte Shape Tape. So what I do with this, I still do the triangle shape. I used to actually just go in with a concealer that was much, much lighter than me, but I found that when I was doing that, I wasn't actually getting any correcting properties. I kind of looked like I had gray under eyes because what I was using was so bright, it was not able to cover the undertones of my dark circles. I'm just gonna go in with a sponge. You will get more coverage with a brush than you will a sponge, but what I like to do is I like to blend the outside of my concealer first, where those edges are, and slowly work my way in. I don't do a whole lot of bronzing and contouring, so I really like for my under eyes to be very, very bright because I feel like it almost is kind of backwards contouring when I add attention to those high points. I feel like I get more coverage out of my product when I blend the borders first. I'm just gonna do the same thing over here, blending out those borders. This, y'all, I have not used in so long. Juvia's Place I Am Magic Concealer, and I have this in the color number 13. Now, I'm not going to put on as much concealer as I just did. I literally just tap this right onto the inside of my eyes. For this lighter shade, I do the opposite of what I did for my darker shades. So I actually kind of start on the inside, and I tap, and then I bring it out, because I really want the light to be focused right in here. And then I also like to bring that up the side of my nose as well. If you came here for nose contour tips, I'm sorry, I do not have anything for you because I do not participate in that. And maybe one of these days I will, but at this point I just have no desire. I'm gonna go ahead and set underneath the eyes. I use this product so much that I actually wasn't allowing myself to use it. That way I would use other products. Very classic product. This is the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder, and I have this in the color Translucent. I actually don't think I've used this. Look. It's fresh. This is the only loose setting powder that I have actually emptied out. I prefer to set underneath my eyes with loose setting powder because I feel like loose setting powder just really soaks into the skin, especially underneath the eyes, in a way that pressed powder cannot. It's so finely milled that it just sucks up into those under eyes and makes you look snatched. I actually like to look up. And the reason that I like to look up is because I have a lot of little creases underneath my eyes, okay? So if I were to just go like this, I would be setting those creases in place. So I like to look up, and I'm not using any powder right now. I'm just showing you what I'm doing and just tapping that product. And you kind of have to take a leap of faith with this because you really can't see what you're doing until you look down. Just press it into the skin like so. And every once in a while I look down, and I really only look up. That way I can get super into right underneath my eyes. Do you just see that? Just And I also don't know if I mentioned this in my other video, but I'm going to mention it again. I have found that pressing this product into your face rather than just baking allows you to be a lot more intentional with your product. Your product's going to last you a lot longer because you're not using an excessive amount that you don't need. And it also allows you to have more of that filtering effect because you're actually taking the time to press that product into your skin rather than just putting a whole bunch on and calling it a day. Oh shoot, I moved a little bit too fast. I actually like to do my cream blush before I set underneath my eyes because some cream blushes do not like powder, but I do have one that doesn't not like powder. Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out blush in the color 10 Rose Latte. Nowadays, I really don't put it on the apples of my cheeks. I really kind of almost put it right underneath my highlighter. It almost does run a little bit into where my highlighter is. And the reason that I have changed the placement of my blush is because when I do it this way, it gives me more of a facelift. This is all preference. You can totally keep it right here on those apples of your cheeks. I like when I put it back here as well, because then my cream blush and my bronzer and my highlighter all look like one entity. I apologize guys, because I actually used this product in my last video as well, but it's just that good. This is the all-purpose type of gal right here. NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop mattifying powder, and I have this in the color Mocha. Do you guys just use powder foundation, or do you use liquid and powder? I've always, for as long as I can remember, used both liquid and powder. I don't always use like a powder foundation. This is a powder foundation, but I don't know, like that's just always how I've done my makeup. I always carve out the top of my brows with the foundation that I'm using. I feel like suddenly I have lost my mind. Does that ever happen to you guys? I'm just going in with a smaller brush to set around my brows. Before we finish the rest of the face, I usually would do lip prep first, but again, scatterbrained. LANEIGE Lip Sleeping Mask. This is in the original scent. I'm just gonna let this soak into my lips for a little bit while I do the rest of my face before I do my lips. I think my under eyes are looking pretty snatched and bright. Now, if I wasn't happy with how bright they were, I cannot live without this product. I feel like this is a product that cannot be duped. Jaclyn Cosmetics Brightening and Setting Palette, and I have this in the deep shade. I absolutely love to take a sponge and I will mix these 3 shades right here and go in on the inside of my eye. Now, I'm not going to do that because again, I don't feel like I need it, but why I love this product so much is because not only does it brighten, but it also smooths. So it's going to help get rid of that texture underneath your eyes. I'm gonna finish the brows off really quickly using this Juvia's Place Brow Gel, and I have this in the color Ebony. I like to set my brows in place after my powders, because if I accidentally get any powder in my brows, then I can go over it with this gel and fix that. To finish off the cheeks, MAC blush in the color Raisin, just a very, very pretty brown mauve color. And I'm just placing this right over top where other color was. And I've also found too, I should have mentioned this earlier, with blush and bronzer especially, it is so much easier to add than it is to take away, just like I mentioned with my eyes earlier. And it's much easier said than done because I'm impatient. So I get it. Like, who wants to sit here and add instead of just going in with a whole bunch and then blending? No, it is so much easier to go in with a little bit at first. I always go over my blush with my sponge just to again help everything morph together. I've been loving this highlighter, Rare Beauty Liquid Luminizer, and I have this in the color Flaunt. I'm gonna show you instead of telling you. So I just like to put a little on my nose, make a little bit of an exclamation mark, blend it out, and look at how easily that blends. And I love this because you can build it up, but it's also very, very wearable. My life is falling apart. I don't know what's happening. Look, I'm just, good night. Set my face, another favorite, Morphe Jumbo Continuous Setting Mist. And I'm going to drench my face in this. Not even being sarcastic. You'll see, just wait if you don't believe me. If I feel like something on my face isn't looking super cohesive, this is the time that I would take my sponge and kind of just press all of my products into my skin. I'm not really feeling that way except for with over here, but that was my fault. Don't have a mascara tip for y'all, so I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly slap some on. Maybelline Sky High Mascara, and I'm just gonna use this on my bottom lashes. You guys remember how I just mentioned I'm impatient? Yeah, this is what happens. We're gonna fix it, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my lips. I actually don't ever mean to lie to you guys, but I did. It wasn't on purpose, okay? It came with time and practice. In my last video, I told you guys that the easiest way to line your lips is if you go like this. That way all of your lip is stretched out. That is not the case anymore. Not everybody has perfect lips. So your lips may look perfect like this, but when you actually go to line them, it will accentuate if they're not perfect. Alamar Cosmetics Las Des Nudes lip liner in the color Divina. All I do is line my lips like this. That's what your lips look like most of the day. So that's what you want to line them as. Now I'm just gonna fill that in with this Dose of Colors matte liquid lipstick in the color Cork. And there you have it. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm kind of bummed because this video was not perfect, but I'm really happy that I filmed this today because I think it goes to show that no matter how long you do your makeup for, no matter how good you are, I would not consider this my best, but that's okay. If it doesn't come out perfect, it's okay. There's ways to fix little mistakes here and there. Honestly, this really wasn't about the look that I was able to create, although I wanted to be able to show you guys the tips. I hope that the tips themselves are what you took away from this. Let me know if you guys have tried any of these tips, if you used any of them, or if you have other makeup tips that you use. I am so open to always trying new things. That's the beautiful thing about makeup, is that there's always room to grow. There's always new stuff to try. There's always new techniques to learn. It doesn't get better than that. Thank you guys for bearing with me today. We made it. I look better than I started, and I guess that is all that matters. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.